Hi, and welcome to a new episode. Today, our episode is a little bit different. We are not interviewing anyone today, we are sharing our story.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. I'm actually really happy to be able to sit here with you to talk about something that's so personal to us. I think we probably worked day and night together for about 10 years, and Globedesk have now become my little family.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same. We are going to talk a little bit about how Globedesk started and also how or why Colombia became such a big part in our life. We are also going to talk a little bit about our Scandinavian roots and how that has formed the company and our way of working. We are going to touch a little bit about how it is to be a female founded company in a male dominated sector. And we are also going to talk a little bit about how it is to build a company across continents.
Mm. And I think for me in the early days, right, we had many moments where we almost quit Globedesk. I think we actually started, of course, with four founders, but two left within 6 months. And looking at where we are today, you'll probably not really guess how uncertain things really were at the very beginning.
No, exactly. And as most companies do, we started out with a business plan, but we quickly learned that we needed to be flexible.
Hmm.
And eventually, we have become we rely more now on our experiences. And for us to grow, we have had to adapt Globedesk to what our clients truly need. And that has changed several times during our journey. But maybe we should start from the beginning and talk about how two Swedes ended up in Colombia.
Yeah, because we actually moved to Colombia for similar reasons. I had just finished my PhD in sustainability in Austria with then my boyfriend, who's now my husband, who is Colombian, who always wanted to move back there after our studies. And I was always very curious of going there, but I think completely terrified of being so far away from family and friends and not really having anything. I didn't have a job, I didn't have security. I certainly didn't speak Spanish. So it started off quite slow for me. Everything meant that I had to start learning Spanish in the capital, Bogota, and try finding myself there. Um, and I think I learned quite quickly that it's a really tough world out there, very different to Europe, which is also quite exciting, right? And the year went really fast, I have to admit. Once I learned Spanish, I started looking for work and realized also that was quite challenging. The job market wasn't really that large for a sustainability expert over there. Um, I think a part of me was quite lost and frustrated at the time. Um, and that was the sort of the beginning of living independently in Colombia for me. So I guess that's sort of my story on how it began, and perhaps you would like to share a little bit how your story began.
Yeah, for me, it started one gray and dark November day back in 2016. Back then, both my husband and I worked in the telecom industry, and the company that my husband worked for was doing a project in South America. And they needed employees to relocate and be on site for this customer project. So when we had dinner that November day, my husband asked the whole family if we would like to move to South America. And I directly screamed, yes. And when I look back, I realized that I was probably a bit bored and just kind of waiting for something to happen. And after that, the process was quick. It was decided that we were going to move to Medellin in Colombia, and the second week of April in 2017, we moved as a whole family. And I had a plan for myself. I was going to continue to work for the employer that I had at that time, and I was going to do it remotely. We had set up a plan, and it felt great. But then on my last day of working in Sweden, my employer changed their mind and told me that I was not allowed to work remotely from Colombia. So there I was. The house had been rented out. We had packed everything we owned, and I was moving to Colombia with no idea or what to do with my time and no income.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We really had the same sort of struggle, I think, at the job front, right? When we met, and maybe now looking back at it, we saw it as an opportunity. We very early on spoke about the talents in Colombia, the work ethic, the high level of English, the friendly manner. I think that's how Globedesk really began. It was our discussions there where we could see the idea of connecting people and giving new opportunities and making a little bit of a difference to our clients. And it's nice now to think back on it because I believe we both really shared and understood those scenarios of the sector very well. And we were at the same time drawn to each other to get to know each other better. And initially, we just started talking via text message and then moved on actually meeting together. You flew all the way to Bogota, and I think after that visit, at least on my end, I felt that, or I knew perhaps that we would work very well together. And little did we know, here we are today, right?
Yeah.
But as I mentioned, initially we were four women who started the company. It was quite short lived. But now again, we were in such different stages of our lives at that time.
Yeah. And I think for all new businesses or companies, the real struggle is to land that first client to become a real company, not just an idea of what you want to do. And when you are selling services, as we are, the selling cycle can be quite long and you have to have patience. So I think it was around 6 months after that we had registered Globedesk that it was just you and me left to decide, okay, what should we do? Should we keep quit or should we keep on trying? And on top of that, you had kind of a special situation as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was mega pregnant, I guess, with my first child and all the challenges that comes with that first baby. And it's a funny contradiction of having that and also then discovered that I really like to work with you, and that felt really good, right? But I think it's worthwhile mentioning again, we really didn't know each other then at the beginning, right? But I had a good feeling. But the friendship or our business started as a business relationship, in all honesty.
Yeah, yeah, it did. And I think that one of the strengths with us and with Globedesk is that we have a high understanding of each other's situation. Life changes all the time. I was not at all afraid to continue Globedesk with you, even though I knew you had a maternity leave coming, because I also had this strong feeling about Globedesk and what we could accomplish together. And once it was just you and I left as founders, we decided to focus on nearshoring towards the Swedish market. And that felt natural for us because we knew the Swedish market and we have experience with both the Swedish culture and the Colombian culture. And we saw that it's two cultures that mix really well together.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think this is where we kind of experienced our first hurdle.
Mm.
Often talking to many clients in Sweden, we realized for them it was really not okay to have a large time difference between them. They were also much more keen to work on site instead of working remotely. Mind you, this was before COVID, right? So,
Mm. And actually, that kind of came as a surprise to me, because you and I, we don't have that mindset. We have always worked remotely with Globedesk, and you and I, we have never lived in the same city. We always have to travel to meet up, and now we don't even live in the same country anymore. So this was one of the times that we had to review our offer and business plan and adapt it to what our clients actually needed.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, we saw that Swedish clients really wanted on site, and knew that Colombians were quite curious, I would say, and really open to relocation, which led us to make this offer to Swedish clients and nearshoring, moving more towards relocation then.
Yeah, absolutely. And to make it the process smoother for our clients and also for our candidates, we started our Swedish entity back in 2021. And yeah, it felt very natural and exciting to be able to offer relocations to our candidates, since that is something that both you and I have done personally. And I also believe that the support that we could give both to clients and candidates was unique, since we have lived in both of the countries and worked both in Sweden and in Colombia. So we could answer questions with confidence and give them answers based on our own experiences.
Mm, indeed. And I think parallel to this, we, at least in Colombia, we offered our EOR services. And for those people that don't know, EOR services stands for Employer Record, which just means that we hire staff in Colombia for companies that don't have their entity. And for us, this was really another way of helping companies outside of Colombia to explore the Colombian market, and also the large talent pool you have there, right?
Mm.
And I think it came again very naturally to us because we were using or making a service that you, Sarah, had already experienced, right? When you moved to Colombia.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And I think that EOR is an interesting service because here we have clients based both in North America, Europe, and Asia.
Mm.
And this is something I really appreciate about Globedesk, the opportunity to work with different cultures and different markets.
Yeah. Which sounds really easy now when we just sit here and talk about it, but it has had its challenges, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when COVID came, we thought like, oh, this is going to be so bad for us. But it wasn't. That was not the bad thing for Globedesk.
Mm.
The real challenge, I would say, came in 2023 when the world economy dipped. And up until that moment, I had worked almost exclusively with relocation of candidates to Sweden, but client demand just dropped dead. And it was actually kind of overnight.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I would like to emphasize how important it is to be flexible in your business and ready to adapt, because the market and the client need is changing constantly.
Mm. And I think we were quite lucky because around that time we did register our US entity, which gave us new opportunities when we saw that there were not so much relocation requests anymore. So
Hmm.
our focus, right, pivoted totally towards nearshore services and focusing on the US market. But it is a little bit what you said. It was this sudden change overnight that hit us very hard at the time, and it led us to where we are today.
Hmm.
And understandably, the US market is quite thrilling to enter, I have to say, but it's also quite an enigma. Customer relationships are completely different. The type of roles are different, how teams are delivered are different, and they do business in a completely different way than Sweden. So I guess with this experience that I now have, I'm very grateful that uh, we have been taught efficiency, honesty, communication, right? I think that's a really heavy hitter doing business transparently,
Hmm.
which basically means to us that you have a level of trust for each other and share information that leads to good results. Not to mention how sustainability is addressed in the US market.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, in the Scandinavian culture, we are independent, and I think that also makes it easier for clients to do business with us
Hmm.
because they never have to micromanage us. We deliver what we have promised, and we also deliver on time because punctuality is another fundamental business principle in Scandinavia and Sweden. Um, and I would say that we are kind of in the middle of another huge change for Globedesk and the services that we sell. Traditionally, we have been focused on tech roles. All the candidates we relocated to Sweden, they were senior developers. And most of our US clients, for them, we provide nearshore developers and tech teams. And in a couple of years from now, the job descriptions that we see from our clients will look very differently because of AI. So once again, we need to adapt and try to understand what will our clients need moving forward in this AI era.
Yeah, there's a constant need to be on top of changes and analyze how Globeless can be relevant for our clients, since it's really moving fast now. I feel it's a lot of changes going on different levels.
Yeah.
For example, there is this narrative about startups or businesses that tend to grow fast or even explode, right? And then you have other stories where companies are doing well, but it's a one-man show. So I think what we have realized, at least, that it changes happens. You need to follow through, even if it's through COVID, if it's a global economy, and so on. You need to constantly think of a strategy
Mm.
and try not to let these events affect your positivity and mindset, to try and focus on things that you can change rather than going down the negative route, and try to grow even though the world is very chaotic.
Yeah, exactly. And trying, just as you said, to keep that positive mindset and always lift each other up. I mean, yeah, that is fundamental, I would say.
Mm.
It's one of the skills that you need to have to survive as a business owner. You can also not be afraid of change. You need to think about how you can take advantage of changes and come out stronger on the other side.
Hmm, exactly. And I think that's exactly what we did when we saw that relocation was dead. We had to make a complete 180 turn in terms of services that we were offering. And of course, we did speak about doing different business dimensions, but I think at the time we just didn't have time to delve into it. And then when this change in the sector happened, it was suddenly time to make those sort of offers to our customers. So, we opened the company in the States. It was very exciting. And I think most customers was very relieved that we could have an easier administrative relationship, right? I think that was very important, a very big nugget for us. And that led us to the idea of, okay, how do we sell in this market, right? And it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be in the beginning. Um, the US, they have a very direct line of business. Ghosting is also quite acceptable in business. Potential customers can just stop writing you. Communication ends without resolution. I find that super interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And something else that is interesting is how few female leaders we meet when we reach out to potential clients. During all these years with Globedesk, we have seen a few female leaders like CEOs and also business owners. But I would say, especially for the CTO role, a role that we often meet with and talk to, I don't think we have had a single meeting with a female CTO.
No, no, me either. It's crazy, right? And I think this is true both for the States and Europe, unfortunately.
Yes. And I would also like to add that in our case, we have been fortunate because we have had partners that have been 100% supportive of Globedesk during all these years. And as a business owner, you really need that support because it's a huge difference between being an employee and being a business owner.
Hmm. Yes, and even I think in the most difficult times of our business, they just told us to keep going. I think this piece of support, at least for me, was vital to continue.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And like in our case, our partners, they come from different backgrounds and different cultures, but they have these kind of core values that are amazing. So maybe that would be an advice for other females interested in building a business or taking a leadership role to look for a partner with values that support this career choice. Um, mm. In the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned that you are a sustainability expert, and that is a subject that has been close to heart for both of us.
Mm.
We have always worked to make Globedesk sustainable in all areas, like financial aspects, how we treat our employees, clients, partners, and of course, the impact that Globedesk has on the environment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I guess just to give some context, I think when we started Globedesk in the very beginning, I mean, it's just as you mentioned, the main focus was always to get the company going, to get some customers, in other words, right? So we always thought of sustainability, but we didn't really know at the time how to incorporate it at all, right? So I think it all started one day when a good friend of mine mentioned that she had just certified her company with EcoVadis, and it was like a lightning struck my brain at that moment. I couldn't believe that I hadn't thought about it from the very beginning. So I suddenly felt that I personally could give meaning to Globedesk, which I feel uh, very special about. So I started that certification going and evaluating how a B2B company could, incorporate sustainability. Turns out quite a lot. Ecomodis really helped me align those priorities and sit down and make an action plan for us, not looking at just our employees, but looking at our internal structures that you and I have, ensuring that we work in a healthy manner, proactively work with education within sustainability that we believe in. I mean, there's just so many things that I would like to say on this, right? But I don't want to bore you all out. But it's a very exciting step for us here at Globedesk to be able to have this certification, I think, and how much it matters in B2B business. And I also think it's important to mention that companies who then look for nearshore solutions, right, um, can be sustainable just by choosing their partners that have this certification, right? And they can use that relationship in their own sustainability plans. I think that's also very exciting.
Yeah, it is. And also as a client, when you work with a sustainable partner, you can be confident that your nearshore consultants, they have a fair salary. They are treated fairly and this makes them stay longer in their assignments as well. So there are so many wins here. And I think when we look back at everything we shared today, one thing becomes very clear, and that is that Globedesk was never like a straight line
Mm.
or a straight highway. It has been a journey full of uncertainty, changes, and moments where we really had to ask ourselves if we should continue.
Hmm. And I think that's something we want to leave our listeners with, right? It is what you see today is not how it started. Behind every company, there are so many doubts, there's so many pivots, hard decisions that nobody really talks about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And for us, what made a difference was not to having all the answers, but to continue anyway, like staying flexible, trust each other. That is super important if you have a business together, and being open to change
Hmm.
again and again
Yeah.
and again.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And staying true to your values, I think that's super important. Whether it's how you work with your clients, or how you treat people, or how we think about sustainability, I think that has really guided us through all of those changes.
Yeah. So if there is one thing that we hope that you can take away from this episode, is that you don't need to have everything figured out to start something. But what you do need is resilience, curiosity, and the willingness to adapt.
Mm. And maybe the right person by your side too.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our beautiful story. And we're very happy to share with you all the coming chapters that we will
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, and hopefully we have inspired you in your own journey, whatever that journey may look like. And also, if you found this episode interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And until next time, ciao.
Hmm. Ciao.